Hello everyone, welcome to the Valley News Now Network. Duke Schindler here with you today for Sports Overtime as we want to welcome on a special guest. It was game one of the Minnesota Timberwolves season with plenty of action going on, and we want to welcome on Kyle Theige covering the Minnesota Timberwolves for the ever popular Dane Moore podcast, as well as Flagrant Howls on Score North. Kyle, thank you for hopping on today. Let's get to some Wolves. Really some interesting minutes distribution from Finch here. He usually plays his guys, or I should say, during the beginning of the season, he kind of opens up that rotation, but historically, he plays his guys. What stood out, Terrence Shannon Jr., 25 minutes ahead of Naz and Dante. He was a force out there, Kyle. I mean, did we have him getting this many minutes or more than so-and-so and so-and-so?
Yeah, talking to Chris Finch after the game, he said, he's like, I have the ability, and he kind of puffed out his chest a little bit. He's like, I have the ability to kind of do what I want to do, which is obviously the head coach's role. But last night I thought it was interesting, I think Chris Finch has been here long enough. He's, without a doubt, the most successful coach in franchise history. The late, great Flip Saunders was awesome too. But like what Finch has done to turn this culture around. So he last night kind of just went with the hot hand, and I think that's good coaching. He didn't go back to Dante in the fourth. He didn't go back to Naz Reid, who really struggled, I thought, defensively. So for Terrence, he just had an opportunity. He bid on it. He got them out in transition. He played good enough defense to kind of hold his own. And then with him, can he hit corner threes? Can he hit spot-up threes? Like in college, he was the fourth best at getting to the free throw line. He's a tank. For football fans, he's like a running back when he gets the ball going downhill. So for him to be able to play a little point and then hit those threes was awesome. And then for Jalen Clark, anytime he comes in, it feels like you're in prison. Like he is as good of an on-ball defender as anyone. So talking to one of the assistant GMs or executives for the team before the game that were out here and just saying, like, how excited are you, like 1 to 10 for what Terrence and Jalen can do? And this guy was like 11. So they really believe in these young guys. They really believe that they're going to be a core part of what they're trying to do this season. And when Dante struggled last night and Mike struggled and Naz Reid, guys who are making a lot of money, to be able to go to the young guys who don't cost a lot of money to win you the game, I thought that was huge.
Big growth spurt, big growth point for Chris Finch because, like I said, he really sticks to his rotation. He loves his guys, your Mike Conleys, your Naz Reids, your Dantes, kind of a basketball politics sort of rotation in a way. Seems to be getting away from that a little bit, but you mentioned Jalen Clark. I said it at Wolves Fest too, Kyle. The guy just gets on the floor and completely changes the whole trajectory of the game. Only 2 points, though, but it doesn't matter when you just see what he does on the floor. You feel, if you're a basketball fan, you just feel the tide shift when he's in. But kind of here from on out, Kyle, do you think this is going to be a lot of matchup-dependent minutes that Finch is going to start looking towards more? Or is he going to just fish out his best guys and then go with that rotation, as he's done in the past?
Yeah, listen, if you're new to me, like I'm one of the biggest Chris Finch defenders. I think he's a really great coach. The proof is in the pudding. Look at his record. Look at how many times they've made the Western Conference Finals in 4 years compared
look what
to
he
34
did
years.
To this franchise.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in him, but I think he's open to criticism. I think there are things that he could be better, and I think last year he just got a little too, whether it be stubborn or conservative with his rotation. He kind of created the mantra in Wolves fandom of 8 starters, and I don't think that was great. And I think last night for him to show, it's not a must-win game in game one, but it's a time to kind of set the expectations, and for him to just say, I'm not going to worry about the vets. He has a really good relationship with everyone on that roster. For him to bench the vets, bench the guys that make a lot of money, and trust the younger guys to deliver in a night where Anthony Edwards puts up more points in a season opener than anyone. I think he passed Karl-Anthony Towns. So Ant hits 41. Like you gotta win those games. And I thought Finch did a really good job. So moving forward to, answer your question, I do think if Finch is going to just play the hot hand, that's really good coaching. So I'm curious to see. They play now on Friday night in LA against a Lakers team that's going to be far better offensively, far worse defensively, and kind of how Finch manages that rotation. But it's going to be fluid. They're going to try to play 9. Last night they played 9.5 with Bones Highland, but that's good coaching to me. And if Finch can keep that up, I'll kind of raise my expectations for what this team can do.
And on top of that, too, another low-key great coaching aspect is when he did bench Dante and Nas wasn't getting as many minutes as we predicted. That fourth quarter, when they were on the bench, they were still engaged. They were still cheering. Yeah. That just shows like the chemistry this team has with each other. They're always going to be rooting for each other, at least from what we can tell.
Yeah, I mean, you cover sports. Like, that's not the case all the time. Like, I know you tune into your favorite football team for 3 hours, your favorite basketball team for 2 hours a couple nights a week, but behind the scenes, dude, like, these guys are on the bus and in the hotel and at the facilities and hanging out. Like, there's a lot that goes into culture that we don't always see. And I know it's kind of a buzzword or a Hallmark card, but for Chris Finch, he has changed the culture of what was a dumpster fire. Like, if you're new to following the Timberwolves, but you live locally, it's probably because you didn't want to cheer for a team that was terrible. Well, now they're kind of in their golden age of basketball with strong ownership and a superstar player, top 5 player in the league, and then a really good coach. So if those things all kind of work in unison and you have a good front office and depth, I think this team this season can build off of what they did the last 2 years, making, quote unquote, the Final Four in the NBA.
For sure. And we got to talk about Anthony Edwards. You mentioned he's a top 5 player in this league. If no one else believes it, just watch a basketball game, please. Like you said, franchise record, 41 points, 7 rebounds, a couple massive threes in the fourth quarter. And then, like you said, that midi he worked on all off season to close it out in poetic justice fashion. Did you feel the aura in the crowd there? Did you feel the aura in the stadium just kind of bleed into the Portland crowd where maybe the crowd was like, he's the best player on the court. We might not finish this.
A quick anecdote, like I went to Vikings-Eagles, my first Vikings game this past Sunday after Wolves Fest. And it's a lot of work to go to sporting events. I know that sounds like champagne problems, but travel and parking and all this stuff and lines. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, maybe I just like watching sports at home. Like maybe I just like the comforts of my own little couch and, man cave. And then you go to a game like last night and everyone is standing. The Wolves are up 2. Ant is just kind of rocking the baby back and forth, isolating his opponent. And he hits that shot and he just starts yelling, y'all blank, need to double team me. And the entire energy in a stadium that was excited for their new team, Damian Lillard's back, you kind of just saw like the souls get sucked out of their bodies. Like they just went all ghostly white. And that's like what makes sports so cool, right? Like Ant had talked all summer, mid-range. We didn't really know how he was going to do it. Is he going to post up? Is it going to look like Michael Jordan? And for him to just get to that spot, a spot that he didn't have, right? Like, that following and covering Ant, he didn't have go-to late game moves. I think he's got more in the bag, but he said in the preseason, just watch. I'm not going to tell you where it's going to be, but last night he found that spot right in front of the Timberwolves bench, and he kind of put the game to bed.
Love to see it. Great start to the season for Ant. Not the greatest start for someone tons of Wolves fans were expecting to play and expecting to get minutes to start this season, especially with the open rotation. Obviously, Rob Dillingham, DNP for him, with Bones Highland playing ahead of him as well. Kyle, obviously, you've been around this team. Did you have any feel that this would happen? Any inside info that you couldn't say? Or did you just feel this coming at all?
I mean, to be completely honest with you, pregame I had kind of heard, because I'm a big Jalen Clark guy, and I had predicted that maybe he would play more this year than others thought he would. But I was kind of told, like, yeah, Jalen's going to play tonight and Rob's not. So I kind of went in with the expectation. Then it got really bad, right? Like, they're turning the ball over. They can't – if you're a adult listening to this with some kids and you're like, remember when my kids can't get the ball over half court? Yeah, that was the Minnesota Timberwolves last night. So when they didn't have any other options, I did think he might call Rob's number. I will say this, and like the Rob stuff is an interesting conversation. They used multiple assets to move up to acquire him last summer. He has to be given an opportunity at some point. Last night specifically, though, every player on the Blazers that they threw out there was like 6'5", 6'6". So I think Chris Finch wanted Bones Highland just because he's a bigger guard and can give a little more disruption defensively, keeping Drew Holiday out of the paint, keeping Kamara out of the paint. But Rob Dillingham is probably one of their 2 best ball handlers, like better than Dante, better than Mike. I know that he might still be young and learning the pro game, but at some point I do think Chris Finch is going to have to say the risk is probably worth the reward. Rob might turn the ball over. but Dante did it 5 times in the first quarter. Like, it can't really get any worse. And I think they're going to need, as the season goes on, like Ant talked about how good a shape he's in last night, 41 points, he's playing defense, he led the team in rebounding, but that's not sustainable. They're going to need other guys to run alongside Ant and take some of the pressure off him. So DNP for Rob, I do think, I want to stress, like 81 more games. I think he's going to get a real opportunity. And I hope, like you saw last night with Terrence and Jalen Clark, that once he gets it, he kind of takes it by the throat and doesn't give it back. So I'm still buying Rob Dillingham stock. The price is lower, but don't sell it yet because I do think he's going to get a chance.
I liken it to, I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but it kind of feels like the J.J. McCarthy situation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It really, you got this young guy, you traded up, you lost assets to bring this guy in, and then there's just this, we want to play him, but he's not ready. We don't feel that he's ready. It's just this weird kind of vibe and situation. I mean, since you've been around the team, Kyle, like, have you, like, what's been Rob's vibe through all of this? It seems like so far he's just been, whenever I get my opportunity, that's my opportunity. But he's got to be thinking about it at least a little bit.
I think you should be a 3-time WBA winner because that is such a good comp. And the first thing I thought of when you said, Rob Dillingham equals J.J. McCarthy, I was thinking Carson Wentz, local product, equals Dante DiVincenzo because they both kind of have like red facial hair. So yeah, they might be, the Vikings and Timberwolves might be two in the same. Yeah, the Rob stuff, he went to Kentucky. He did bounce around a bunch of different high schools. I think Rob Dillingham spent a semester at the Donda Academy. If you're unfamiliar with that, you can go look that up. So I think he's still trying to mature his body. He's put on weight. He's a smaller guard. Like, we already know that, but he's put on a little weight. He does fight defensively. So I do think if you put him out there, he's not going to be a complete sieve. But I think he's itching to play. And, like the SpongeBob meme where Patrick's in his little castle and SpongeBob and Patrick are outside. And, I think Rob looked at Jalen and TJ and is like, yo, those guys get to play now. Like, I get to play. And he's Squidward inside. So it's going to come. And when it comes, though, I think the pressure's on him now. Like, you got to deliver. And you don't need to be fancy. You don't need to score a bunch of points. Just can you take the pressure off of the stars of this team, the stars being Ant, the stars being Julius. It's going to be fascinating. Like, we're already really talking about it after game 1. That does kind of give me some juice of like, okay, how many more times is Austin going to hit me up to like, let's talk about Rob? So I'm excited about it.
It's just such a fascinating situation because you see so many, like, everyone backs him, but then you just don't like see it. It's just it's going to be exciting when he finally gets that opportunity, though. Is he mature enough to just not do too much with that opportunity?
Yeah, and the NBA now, if you're like a role player or a young guy, you get in the game if you have one like discernible skill. When Jalen Clark comes in, he's going to play all level defense. When TJ comes in, he's going to get out and run, and he's going to draw fouls. I don't know if Rob himself knows what Rob's role is, but if Rob can just be a serviceable backup point guard or a spot starter, I think that would be good enough. But I think he's got to look for his own shot a little more. He's got to be able to hit, catch, and shoot threes when Ant does get double teamed. And I think he's just got to he is a really good playmaker. I just think there's a concern from him that, like, if I turn the ball over, is the head coach going to get mad? How many of us who played in the past, like, remember that fear of if I do something bad, I'm going to be benched? So it's going to kind of have to be a give and take, I think, with Rob and Chris Finch of, I'm going to trust you to do X, Y, and Z. And if you do X, Y, and Z, we'll move on to A, B, and C. But they're going to need Rob Dillingham. That's one of my big takeaways from last night, a night that they win, a night that Ant has 41. Rob Dillingham is just too young and too special and too gifted to already kind of have his story written. So I'm expecting to see him help this team out maybe sooner than later.
And I do hope it also just works in the end, because I feel like if you give this guy a new opportunity elsewhere, he may just take it and run with it. Then we're looking back like, dang, we should have just gave him a little more time there. But besides that, Kyle, I want to go back to Anthony Edwards because he was the star of the show there last night. How far can Ant take this team this year, especially what we've seen? He's been a closer, he's done all that, but it just felt a little different last night with how much more so control he had.
Yeah, I think I saw this stat. First player in NBA history to score 40 or more points while shooting 50% or better from the field, 50% or better from three, and 100% from the free throw line in a season opener. So he's doing historic stuff. So if you're not familiar with Ant and you hear top 5 player and you're like, I didn't know the Wolves have had any of those since Kevin Garnett, they have one again. How far can he take them? To me, like, football is all about having a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you kind of have a firm ceiling. But in the NBA, you do kind of have to have a top 5, top 7 guy, right? Last year, the Thunder win it, they have Shea. And the Nuggets win it, they have Jokic. So the Wolves have that piece. How far can they go? I still think it's about how many other of his teammates can kind of raise their boats a little bit and kind of follow him. Last night, Jaden McDaniels quietly had a huge 18 points. He was big for them defensively, getting out in transition. So I think talent alone, Ant can bring them just to the playoffs himself. But I think to crack this Western Conference ceiling that they've started to create, they're going to need other players to step up. But last night, even again, Ant only finished with 1 assist. I think he had more. I think kind of the hockey assist thing. I think guys miss shots and stuff too. But he was just, I'll also be our best rebounder. That's big. That's superstar stuff when you can start dominating in multiple facets, not just scoring. And again, if you've never watched Anthony Edwards play on TV or you've never been to a game, I'm not comfortable with the Michael Jordan comps because you and I kind of grew up Michael Jordan still has the resume, but he is box office. He's the type of player, Anthony Edwards, that you will tell your children and your grandchildren about. And I think he's on that trajectory. So he's worth tuning into because any single night, like last night specifically, he can kind of just win you the game. And that's so fun to watch.
One name we haven't brought up yet, we basically went through the entire rotation. Didn't really bring up Rudy Gobert last night. Kind of, I don't know how to say it, just kind of non-existent out there. And Rudy does and has had these games, but he had also that massive putback that really almost sealed it besides the step back mid-range. Do you feel like Rudy still has a fit with this team, especially the way Finch wants to start running with these young guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, my dad's listening to this. Shout out to North Dakota State alum Jeff Theige. But I think he's going to look at it and say Rudy Gobert had 10-6 last night, and he's making $30 million. That's not good. I thought if you rewatch the game, when he was off the court, the Wolves were, the seas parted. They had no rim protection. They had no fear. Rudy Gobert might not always get blocks, but he'll kind of do this, as I coined it, a never mind, where a guy will get into the paint, think about, okay, now I put the floater up, now I go for the layup, and they'll see this 7'3" French guy and be like, okay, no, I'm not doing that, and they'll kick it back out. So last night, the box score is not sexy, but I thought when Rudy was on the floor, their defense looked kind of like it was. This is a defensive-minded team. That's what got them to the Western Conference Finals these last 2 years. So I think he's as important as ever until they kind of figure out, they draft a young French kid this season, Johan Berenger. He's just not ready. He just started playing basketball one presidential term ago. He was a soccer player his whole life in France. So until they can get that new, 6'11", 7-footer ready, I do think they're going to need Rudy because when he's off the court, the defense basically collapsed last night, even though Jalen and Jaden McDaniels gave them good on-ball pressure. But, yeah, I think Rudy Gobert now in year, 4 for the Timberwolves, it's never sexy. It's never going to pop off a box score. But all the little subtle stuff he does is so important to winning. And I think he's going to be relied upon, dude, as much as he's ever been since arriving in Minnesota.
They're going to definitely need him. And he's not a box score guy, like you mentioned. We see Walker Kessler rack up blocks, but then he still gets dunked on every single game or lets up this, lets up that. With Rudy, it's just much different. It's a much different type of defense. He's not really blocking shots. He's just stopping the possession in its cold tracks.
It's literally when guys show up into the paint, they just see him and they just I don't want to do that. And that's after they've fought off a couple screens or guys, hounded them 35 feet. So it really is kind of an eye test thing. When you watch the next Timberwolves game, just watch when the opponent gets close to Rudy and no, I'm not doing this. That's a 4-time defensive player of the year. So it really is eye test over stats, but his impact still, even at an older age, he's a vet. He's probably on the downside of his career now. He still brings them so much that does kind of make Ant's life a lot easier.
And a couple more questions here. I'll let you go, Kyle. Just based on what we saw in that first game, what are you kind of expecting for this team ahead of this next 81 games? Obviously, we saw some of the bad habits from last year kind of resurface with all those turnovers, kind of getting out of sorts on offense, running in circles, but hopefully they don't stick around this year. What are you expecting for this Minnesota Timberwolves squad?
I always try to remind people, especially just doing pods a couple of times a week, it's like, this is such a long season. Like, we're going to be talking to each other now until the snow comes and the snow melts in North Dakota and Minnesota. So we're going to be doing this for a while. I think it's a long season, a marathon, but I expected them to win 52, 53 games this season. I think they should be a top 4 team in the West. And I'm always, again, maybe this is my Minnesota sports fandom of not having a lot of success. Any win is a good win to me. I don't really care how ugly last night was. There was a lot of issues, a lot of things to address at practice and on film. But they won the game because they had the guy that can hit the shots at the end of the clock, and the Blazers didn't. So I think there's just a ton of stuff to clean up. That was kind of the message in the locker room last night, talking to Julius, talking to Ant. We have to be better defensively. We have to stop turning the ball over. But a win is a win. And in the Western Conference, now more than ever, you need to win as many games as possible. So I simply think the Timberwolves of old just don't win last night's game. This new version does, and I think that's big. But yeah, every night's going to be a battle. Every night's going to be something different. I think around the league, you're seeing a lot more. Last night was awesome if you were just watching games on your phone. Like, there was so many good highlights and box scores. So it's going to be competitive every night. I think the days of load management might slowly be going away. The Wolves don't load manage guys. So I expect them to be in it every night, win a lot of games, and hopefully over an 82-game season, you can clean up some of the little things that could become, cancerous come playoff time.
For sure. And then once again, Kyle Theige here from Dane Moore Podcast, Flagrant Howls joining us here today, and North Dakota native from Grand Forks. Kyle, do you have any other things to mention to your North Dakota folks out here on growing the game or getting to a Wolves game?
Yeah, I just think that, there's new ownership. They're trying to build a new stadium. That's going to take a while. It takes a while to do anything these days, but I think that's coming down the pike. But I think there's a really good energy. The Timberwolves have the greatest jersey lineups in the league. Like, it's a cool time to buy merch. It's a cool time to support them. And then again, a lot of times in Timberwolves fandom, we talk about Charlie Brown when Lucy would hold the football. He'd go kick it, and then they'd pull it out. The Wolves have done that to generations of fans. But this time now, I think Lucy is going to keep the football down, and Charlie can kick it. And if you like good basketball, competitive basketball, and a lot of talent, like, this Timberwolves team is for you. So I highly suggest tuning in. I have no idea anymore how to find NBA games. There's like 9 streaming services. I know my parents are still mid-continent people, so I'm trying to get them figured it out. So if you can find the game, watch it. They have the best broadcast with Jim Pete, Michael Grady, Alan Horton. Everything about this franchise is kind of elevated. And again, you get to watch what I'm thinking might become a generational player in Anthony Edwards if he continues to climb and build off of what he's done in his first 5 years. So it's a really exciting time to be a Timberwolves fan, and I would highly suggest checking out a game in person or on TV if you haven't yet.
Definitely worth the drive, I can tell you that much. Went up to the Wolves Fest there last week, but we're trying to expand it into North Dakota here.
Yes,
Timberwolves
sir.
are in market, so if you got FanDuel, FanDuel Sports Network, you should be able to tune in. Kyle, thank you once again for joining me here today. Appreciate you, and hope we can chat again.
Appreciate you. Shout out to everyone in North Dakota. I miss you all, and I'm really excited for what you've been doing, Austin. And yeah, like I said, it's going to be a fun season. Tune in, and I'm sure you and I will chat and catch up later down the road.
I appreciate you for hopping on, Kyle. That'll do it for Valley News Now here on the Valley News Now Network. Kyle Theige joining us for Sports Overtime. Appreciate you again, Kyle. That'll be it for us here. We'll catch you later. All right, that was Kyle Theige joining us on the desk. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Timberwolves are going to be on the court. They are back in action tonight facing the Los Angeles Lakers. Another late start. It's going to be 9 p.m. Tonight, but hey, it's Friday. Enjoy a couple beverages, kick back, and watch the Wolves and Anthony Edwards here. But we're not quite finished yet on Sports Overtime. We have a big game, as I'm sure all of you know. the 22nd annual Dakota Marker Game between NDSU and South Dakota State, and we want to welcome on a special guest as well. Might as well bring the sports reporter on to talk about this game. Makena Wright joining us here on the show. Makena, how you doing here?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on today. This is exciting. I can't wait to talk about the Dakota Marker with you.
I mean, absolutely. And this is going to be your first game traveling.
Yeah, this is my first time. I haven't been able to go to a UND game yet. Like, I haven't gone beyond the Fargo Dome really when it comes to covering college football yet. So the fact that I'm going to Brookings tomorrow, I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
It's very rare. We have a 1-2 matchup. Obviously, NDSU getting the better of the Jackrabbits these last two meetings in last year's playoffs as well, with a 13-9 dub in the last Dakota Marker game. But before that, SDSU took the last 5 meetings, including that national championship in Frisco. But, you know, Makena, with these two historic teams, how are you feeling about this 1-2 matchup to start it off? Like, you don't see that in the FBS even.
Right, like this isn't just 1-2 in Missouri Valley. This is 1-2 in FCS. This is 1-2 in the entire country of the championship subdivision. So like this is a huge game, and I feel like as much as we've tried to emphasize that this week, like I still forget that this is a massive game. Like this is the closest you're gonna get to playoff football without actually being in the postseason. You're playing in the middle of your season for a trophy. So like this is a huge, huge game, and it's going to be electric. I can't wait to go down there and be in that environment.
Did you anticipate when you took this job that you'd be going to a 1-2 game like this in the regular season too?
No, I did not. See, when I took this job, I was like, oh yeah, I'm covering the best FCS football team in the country, being the Bison. Now I'm covering the best and the second best FCS football team in the country, and I get to do it all in one weekend in the regular season. And
the best part, you get to really see the rivalry with your own two eyes there, because I know these teams do not like each other. You know, obviously heading into this season, Makena, Cole Payton, he's now leading the entire FCS in completion percentage, and also an 11-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You know, we all knew what he could do with his legs this season. A lot of people even tabbed him as just a running quarterback, but he's been throwing it through the air, really developing as a passer here. What have you seen from Cole Payton in your time? And it doesn't look like he's a running quarterback.
No, he is truly a dual threat quarterback, and that is the first thing he actually told me when I got here. He was one of the first players I talked to when I got to Fargo here, and that was like one of the first things he said. He said, I'm a dual threat quarterback, and like lots of people have, you know, labeled me as, oh, I only run. And he said that this year, like, that was his goal, is to go out and prove, no, I can do it through the air and I can do it on the ground. And he's absolutely done that. And it's worth noting that one interception he has didn't come until last weekend. And that was just a weird game altogether. It was a weird vibe. They had like a 2.5-hour weather delay. So like, you can't really knock the guy for that interception. But they came back out after that half of that game, and he was unbelievable. Again, he's been unbelievable every single weekend. He just does things that it's like, how did you see that? Like the last weekend I was at the Fargo Dome filming some of his like plays, and just watching him make those decisions, like as he's scanning and he's looking, and then he decides, you know what, I'm gonna run it. Like, he's unbelievable. He's just an incredible quarterback. So to just see what he's been doing all season long has been unreal.
And it's well deserved here for Cole Payton too. He committed here to North Dakota State. He sat on the bench for all 4 years, or until his senior year this year. And now he finally gets his opportunity. It really feels like he's just this polished quarterback that took that time to develop himself, right?
Yep, yeah, and like that's so rare that you'll get a quarterback to stick it out all those years, especially in the age of the transfer portal, when I'm sure Cole Payton was a player that had coaches, hey, you know, you'd be the starter if you come here. No, he was a Bison through and through, and he stuck it out, and now look at him. I mean, this kid's got eyes on him across the country, so.
Yeah, working his way into a potential draft prospect at this point. You don't
1,000%.
see that, you really don't see that in the FCS. Obviously, with North Dakota State, they have the history of quarterbacks, but especially playing 1 year, by the way.
Yeah, right?
But looking at how this NDSU offense as a whole, Makena, you know, obviously you got Cole Payton almost leading the team in rushing as well. Haven't scored less than 33 points this season, but it's kind of a top-heavy FCS here. right? South Dakota State comes in. It's going to be a completely different game. What's going to be the key for this North Dakota offense to get started, get a lead, and not give it back?
Yeah, that was what Tim Polasek said in his press conference this week. Like, he took the stat sheet, said this is the kind of game. He ripped up the stat sheet, said you throw this to the wayside because this doesn't matter now. This is a completely different animal, completely different game. For the Bison, they're going to have to watch out for SDSU's linebacker trio in Colin McShane, Joe Ullman, and Chase Van Told. These guys are nearly at 90 solo tackles total combined against the three. They combine for over 100 total tackles, whether that's tackle assists or solo tackles. So these guys are incredible. They fly around the field. They get to the quarterback. So that's something that the NDSU offense is going to have to look out for. But when you have a guy like Cole Payton who, yeah, sure, you can knock him off out of his pocket sometimes, but then you can't really bring him down. You got to kind of a game plan for that if you're SDSU. So for NDSU, it's going to be sticking to that game plan that they have and those formations that they play in and they play well in. And if you're SDSU, you got to be on lockdown defense against this team. Definitely.
And once you get Cole Payton outside of the pocket, that's a plus, sure. But then it's his legs that you have to worry about.
Exactly.
And then for Cole, on Cole Payton's end, how do you see that he's going to be able to look at these linebackers and maybe look them off so he has a space to run or a space to pass?
Yeah, for him, I mean, he finds seams so well, and that is exactly what the SDSU's defensive line told us in their press conference earlier this week, is that they're going to have to really be careful with him because right when you think you got him, that's when you don't. So for him, it's going to be trusting his eyesight, trusting his vision, because he has incredible field vision. And what he sees is usually what's going to go for this team.
For sure. And then we obviously got to talk about the defense, too. Bison also haven't given up more than 17 points a game. Tops in the nation for total defense, only giving up about 229 yards a game. But for South Dakota State, an interesting situation they have at QB. Starter Mason Chase, he got hurt versus Murray State and the Jackrabbits and SDSU. They're kind of keeping it a secret who's going to be under center. We got to obviously assume it's going to be Chase. That's the guy they want out there. But what's the vibe you've gotten from NDSU? What's Polasek thinking?
If you're Coach Polasek, you're always planning for QB1, and then you make adjustments if it's Luke Marble that'll be in there. Which I think if that's the case, NDSU's defense is going to handle what he brings, and he's a great quarterback. And it's just no matchup for NDSU's defense. I think for SDSU to have the best possible chance is going to be they need Chase Mason in there. And if they're going to win, they're going to have to do it through the air because they're not going to beat NDSU's run defense.
And when you look at things, SDSU has had a couple close games this year. NDSU hasn't. Maybe a close half.
Yep.
But when it's a rivalry game, everything changes. Everything's off the table. What is NDSU going to have to do here, Makena, to make sure that they know that this isn't just your typical game? We got to win this.
Right. That's what I've been thinking about this week is, like, especially in the last 3 weeks, I think there's been some really close halves with NDSU, and then they pull away in that second half. They can't really afford to have a rocky, bumpy, ununified first half. It's got to be unified. It's got to be solid right from the get. And I think if they can come out and play that way right off the kickoff, they're going to be completely fine. But it's just going to be managing the ebbs and flows of the game and trying to ride a constant high the whole time.
What are the vibes for you, Makena, heading into this? Obviously, big game, your first real big game. Just tell me, what are you excited about for this experience?
I'm excited to see a true rivalry. I haven't seen a true football at any level. I mean, yeah, you watch the third Saturday in October on TV with Alabama and Tennessee, but I've never been in that environment. So I'm so excited to be on the sidelines, there in it. I have butterflies in my stomach just thinking about it. It's this is gonna be insane. I'm told that the atmosphere is electric. That's what everybody has said, whether you're a Bison, whether you're a Jackrabbit. So I just can't wait to be in there and see it.
We love the hate. We love the hate. North Dakota State, #1 Bison. They'll take on South Dakota State in Brookings, 7 p.m. on ESPNU. Makena, thank you for taking the time here in the busy Friday night, Saturday schedule here to take some time and talk to us about some Bison.
Of course, anytime I get to be here talking about Cole Payton and the Bison, I'm all for it.
Money. You can catch Cole Payton and the Bison 7 p.m. like I said on ESPNU. However, that'll do it here for Sports Overtime on the Valley News Now Network. For Duke Schindler and Makena Wright, thanks for coming on again. We'll catch you later.